Hello, everyone, and welcome to Hit and Hustle from IrishSportsDaily.com. I'm your host, Greg Flammang, and with me, as always, is Jamie Uyeyama, Mr. Jamie University. It is Tuesday, September 23rd, and folks, get ready for a nuanced conversation about the defense. Jamie and I were talking a little bit before the show about the performance of the defense and how our impression of it is kind of clouded by the context of the first two games. In a vacuum, we feel like this performance was a good bit better than I think we all felt in the aftermath, but there are still some problems that we need to talk about. We'll talk about Marcus Freeman's comments. We'll talk about some of the good performances that we saw kind of across the board from Notre Dame's football team. And then we'll get into comments and questions from the chat. It's going to be a very fun show. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. If you like what you hear, please hit that like button. Please hit subscribe. Please hit the notification bell so you know whenever it is. We are going live. Links to the podcast are in the description below. And as always, the show is brought to you by ESQ Clothing, founded by Notre Dame alum Ge Wang, and Chicago's go-to for the best custom suits, shirts, and sport coats. Notre Dame has kicked off the season, and it is time for you to refresh and update your wardrobe and add the perfect suit, sport coat, tuxedo, or casual jacket for the fall. ESQ's master tailors combine next-level craftsmanship with the finest fabrics to deliver a fit that's built just for you. Now with showrooms both downtown Chicago and in Winnetka, book your custom fitting at esqclothing.com and step into confidence with Chicago's finest. Mention ISD at your appointment and receive 10% off your entire purchase. That's esqclothing.com. First of all, I'm an honest broker, Jamie. Congratulations to the Godfather, Mike Frank, and his Detroit Lions. I'm following two identical football teams in 2025, Jamie. Yeah. The Ravens, they lost in the opener for 41-40. And they can't stop anyone. They got absolutely humiliated at home last night. I mean, they did. I mean, like multiple, like a 70-yard run, a 31-yard run to end it. My beloved Kyle, they've got him in the back. He's got nothing to do. They're just getting mashed on. They should have drafted Xavier Watts. But look, I'm going to be an honest broker. I'm going to say congratulations to Mike. It was an evisceration, and he was very kind on the board. You know, he didn't rub it in my face, but you know what? He deserves to gloat. It was a great performance by them. So congratulations to the Lions. The Ravens got some stuff to figure out. Let's talk about the defense, Jamie, because I think if Notre Dame had beaten Texas A&M 41-24 and they go with the lineup that they went with, and we look at that lineup in a vacuum, in that performance in a vacuum, I thought there were some good things that we saw from Notre Dame. You texted me. You thought the linebackers played well. I did think the linebackers played well. I thought they got some very good. I thought Gabe Rubio had a good game. I thought Elijah Hughes had a good game. We talked about that. Donovan Heinisch had a good game. I thought Mark Zachary, given the ask and what it was, I thought, we were saying he wasn't getting cooked on these routes. He was in good position. Like the first catch by Nitro Tuggle is kind of insane. Like it's one of the best catches you'll see. I think he got underneath the corner route for the touchdown at the end of the first half, just without looking at safety play. Like I think he was thinking another route was coming, whether it was a crosser, if he was thinking if there was going to be a mesh concept, he's going to be across the field. He played it underneath like he thought he was going across. He ran out. It was a good route by Nitro Tuggle, who you also texted me. Nitro Tuggle, he's a good football player. I mean, I was very impressed with him. So he did some things. I thought Dallas Golden did some things in the game. Obviously, he had some like not understanding the nuances of zone as a nickel, which understandable given the fact that he's played nickel for 5 days. Yeah. So you understand those things, Jamie, but do you kind of agree with that? Like there was a bit more in a vacuum, right? And we could talk about the problems in a second, but in a vacuum, there were more good performances than I think we kind of talked about. I talked about the day after on the day of the game, and then we talked about yesterday on Power Hour.
I think like if you're just going to look at structurally and fundamentally, they played a fantastic game versus the run. Like I think the linebackers played really, really well versus the run. I think that you mentioned those defensive tackles. Boubacar Traore had his best game that I've seen him play against the run, and he was good as a pass rusher in the game too. I thought, just in general, like the defensive line played really well against the run. And I think like back end wise, there was more good than you would expect given like the results or whatever. But the thing is that when you play defense, all it takes is one guy.
Yeah.
And really that's the thing, right? And and we talked about how it's like they're basically playing with only one guy who was back from last year in the first half of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Gray is the only guy, and then two true freshmen. Obviously Stroman has played a lot of ball, but he's new to Notre Dame, and if you look at, like you mentioned, Golden has played nickel, and Tay Johnson was his first career start. Like there's just a lot. There's a lot there that it's like you got three guys with their first career start, and two of them had played a combined 5 plays in the first 2 games.
Yeah.
Right? So that is probably not going to go well in many circumstances. And I think those guys, considering it was like the first of that, I thought they did pretty well. It's not to say that there wasn't concerning things. There was definitely concerning things. And I'm still very stuck on kind of what they're doing in terms of pass rush and what they're doing in terms of just like their pressure looks and what they're like not presenting to the offense, how much easier they're making it for the offensive line and the quarterback.
Yeah.
Just even in terms of setting protections, like it's too easy.
Yeah.
It's easy. It's the thing. If like they know where you're going to line up every snap, and even if you run a stunt, it's like those are a lot easier to pass off. Even if you're just doing little things like stemming before the snap, might not seem like a big deal, but like literally, I want to say Miami. If you look at Miami and you look at A&M and what they did against Notre Dame's offensive line, they stemmed like probably like 70% of the time.
Yeah.
Like they're doing that. And you don't have to do that much, but it just like, you got to do something. And they used to. So it's like, I think there's just a lot of things there that I think could make them better than they are there.
It's interesting, Jamie, because I think we talked about the kind of the mistakes and the errors. Marcus Freeman, one thing that he talked about that I disagree with him on, and I think a lot of what he said, I kind of feel like it makes me confident that what he's saying is not what he's preaching either to the team or the coaches, because it's kind of plainly untrue to me. When he talks about like, oh, we know what we're doing. Well, sometimes they plainly did not. Even when Don Schuler was in the game, which I thought was very interesting. Like I thought the first drive, they were kind of out of sorts a couple of times. And on the third down, especially when they dropped the ball, they had Madden Faremo, like KVA's making the signal, and they had Madden Faremo on the slot on top. And he's not supposed to be on there. And then after the play, KVA looks at Schuler is like, I'm making this signal. Why are we lined up like this? So there were and like those, Schuler is a captain. KVA played a ton of football last year. So there's that, right? There was a play, the interception where Madden Faremo tips the ball. First of all, Jason Garrett was completely wrong on that. I was listening back today, and not only did he get it wrong live, they went to commercial, and then he analyzed it wrong again.
And then they did it again.
Yeah.
But you know what, though? I blame it on because those guys have spotters, and they're supposed to be that guy. So the spotter sucks. I'm sorry to that guy. But because the thing is that I actually tweeted out, I was like, hey, great play by Matt Farmer to get a hand on that ball. And then they said it was Logan Thomas, and I was like, was it? And I'm like, I guess I was wrong. It was Logan Thomas. And then I watched it again. I was like, no, I was right. It was Madden. Like, what is this? Like, come on.
Well, it wasn't just that. He said it was zone, and it was clearly man.
It was clearly man.
I think he got confused because Christian Gray, they did the late motion, and it's kind of credit to Purdue. Christian Gray was confused. He's not covering really anybody. Now, luckily, you had Stroman on the tight end, and Faremo took the back. And so Christian Gray was technically free to not – he's basically he's supposed to be a single high player in that situation. He's kind of – it worked out because the ball gets tipped to him. He's kind of in no man's land. But it's like that's kind of a situation where they weren't totally sure where to go. I thought they – like so Christian Gray's an older player. I thought Bryce Young, there was a play where they did an ET stunt and he got washed out of the pass rush lane, which allowed Ryan Brown to scramble. I thought that was a mistake. I thought the first third down right before the long Nitro Tuggle play, before the first touchdown play, I thought KVA, if he stays where he's supposed to, that's going to be an interception. The quarterback will throw it right to him. But the quarterback kind of rolled left and he left his zone and that opened up the pocket for the tight end to get into. Like it's little stuff like that where I think that's where Marcus Freeman is saying, hey, like you got to execute the defense as you call it. Because Notre Dame was actually in a good call on that play. He just didn't do it right, you know? And it's funny, there was another play from KVA where it was something similar. It's like he played the best game in terms of playmaking, but he also had kind of those two mistakes. And those are the things that you deal with when you're, playing a young player, especially like KVA, who's such a playmaker. You just got to live with that stuff. And it's not like a backbreaker. But it's like those things where it's like, they're just like, these are older players. KVA's played a ton, right? Yeah. Christian Gray's played a ton, right? So that's kind of what I'm talking about, where it's like we're talking about, plays and stuff, but when Marcus Freeman says execution, that's also there. And they also are confused about what they're supposed to be doing.
And I think there's one of these things too, where I always thought it was like, hey, it's overblown when people are like, well, what are they going to do if Jack Kaiser's not there to line him up and Xavier Watts? And I mean, there is something to that, maybe not at linebacker as much, but definitely in the secondary. I think they do miss Watts because he was a calm voice. You know what I mean? Like he was a guy who was like, man, he was on his P's and Q's. Like he was just always was. When's the last time that you saw a bust from Xavier Watts?
From anyone when he was out there.
It just wasn't, right? And obviously his skill set allowed them to play a little bit differently too. Like they can't really play cover one unless Tay Johnson becomes that person that they can play as a single high safety.
Yeah. They
can't play cover one the way that they played cover one last year. And that changes things because they do a lot of robber stuff out of that. And that was like, that helped them like really mess up like things on third down a lot with that it messed up things with like, in terms of like adding that, maybe that robber there, maybe the guy's a blitzer. Like there's so much different things that they could do with that. And so there is some personnel stuff that I think, and defensive tackle wise too, like Cross and Mills were very good pass rushers, very good. And right now they're not, like the guys they have right now are not the same level. And because if you look at, like, you thought like Jason Onye hit me because raving about his camp, he had a monstrous camp. But once a guy like that specifically, and I don't want to like single him out, but I kind of have to, because he was a guy that last year before, he left the team, he looked like a great pass rusher. Like he was like, wow, he had like basically like 4 games in a row where he was like, man, this guy's killing dudes. He's like, the light has flipped on for him. He's got a chance to be something. And then when you hear he has this great camp, it's the best camp, whatever, all this kind of stuff. He wins the starting job, and that was, was an open job. And he's pretty much been a non-factor, right? And so you kind of need some of there is a certain amount of like, you can look at personnel and some guys aren't playing, because there's a lot of times too where in a defense where, someone makes a mistake. Their assignment's wrong, but it's made up for because a guy makes a play.
Yeah.
And that would happen like a decent amount, where sometimes you don't even get to see the missed assignment because it gets blown up, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you're not having enough of those guys making plays, and also too, you aren't calling the defense in a way that is aggressive enough to produce some of those plays, that is, that's why it stands out even more. And I was thinking this too, Greg, and it's something I think that I had this idea of what the defense was going to be this year based on the personnel that were coming back,
Mm-hmm.
and based on, basically all the stuff that Chris Ash said he was not going to do that he has now done or whatever, right? Basically where he was like, if it ain't broke, I'm not, all it, like, so there is a lot of what you said about on Power Hour, when we were talking about this weekend too, about the kind of art of play calling, where calling it at the right moments, knowing situationally. I think he's gotten a lot of that stuff wrong, and we'll get into that. But
Mm-hmm.
I definitely think that like how he has called the defense has changed the mentality of the defense.
Yeah.
They aren't violent in the same way because they don't play in a way where it's like, and people might think it was ridiculous me saying like they were those, Jalen Sneed was just like looking to just destroy the back on that play, or like guys, whatever. But trust me, especially if you are a safety, or you are, if you're a linebacker, you're a safety, you're a corner, and they call a blitz where you're blitzing. I mean, believe me, those guys are like, heck yeah. Like that is like, it when if you ever get those opportunities, you're just like, man, hey, like I'm bad out of hell, right? Bad out of hell. I'm coming here. And then when you don't, they don't really run any pressures with any of the DBs. They haven't, right? Like they blitzed, Schuler once on a pass down, and they blitzed Leonard Moore twice.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. That's it. And it's not to say that they were like blitzing from there all the time, but they would. It would happen where you're like, that's how Rod Hurd would get a sack, and they would hit the quarterback, like Ben Morrison's hitting the quarterback, like all these, whether it's hits on the quarterback, pressures, whatever. There is that mentality of like, we're coming after you, right?
Right.
And when you call it in a different way and you kind of lose that mentality, you kind of lose their identity. And it's different with like, and I was thinking with Clark Lee, right? Because obviously Clark Lee was a lot different than Marcus Freeman in terms of how he called the defense. And certainly I think like those Clark Lee defenses were physical. They were tough. They were good. But I think of Clark Lee, and I think of fundamentally sound. We're taking away what you do best. We're taking that away. We're going to make you play left-handed, right? Yeah. We're going to make you play left-handed. We're going to say, okay, if you want to do this, you're going to have to drive the field. We're not letting you beat us over the top. We're never going to let you. We're going to do this. We're going to make sure we're going to rally up and tackle. We're going to do these things. It wasn't quite like, as passive as like a Bob Diaco or whatever, but it also wasn't like, it wasn't anything close to Al Golden. But that was also something that that defense at that time, they had so much trust in Clark Lee, because they knew that not only it was just like, forget about the mentality or whatever, it was just like, they knew this is who we are and this is how we're good. And this is what we do well. And this is how we win. Right. And people take pride in that. And now it's like, what is the identity of the defense now under Chris Ash? I mean, right now it's giving up big plays like that.
Right,
That
right.
and that's all. And it's also too why it does no good for Marcus Freeman to just go, hey, you know, he stinks and I got to take over and but
Yeah.
like it's because as long as they're still going to give it a shot with Ash, it does no good to be like, he can scream all he wants at Ash in private, talk to the coaches differently. They can have meetings and all that, but he can't say that publicly because he needs buy-in from the players.
Yeah.
And right now it doesn't look like the players have bought in. And I understand why, but also too, that means like there has to be adjustments to meet the players in the middle. And then hopefully they do find an identity, because there's a big difference between being like, man, they took a step back because they're changing things, and we're like in a tailspin where they are now. Like,
Yeah.
and I think that's just kind of where it is.
Yeah, I think, and Matt put it in his Sunday reflections. Like, he does, in his opinion and in his reporting, the defense is not playing for Chris Ash right now. They don't believe in it. And Marcus Freeman needs to hold that line. And he needs to tell them, like, hey, I'm sticking with Chris Ash, and so you need to as well. He's not, like, to me, listening to his comments yesterday, that is, hey, you guys, we are having enough assignment errors to where you cannot be pointing fingers at somebody else. I mean, he said it over and over. I mean, he listening to him, and I was transcribing it for the website, so I'm listening very intently to what he's saying. And it was clear to me, his main message about the defense yesterday was, we are all accountable. No one is pointing fingers. Nobody can say it's this, that, or the other. The coaches can't point at the players. The players can't point at the coaches, because everyone isn't good enough right now. And so you need to fix yourself before we can fix the whole thing. That was his main message. And that's because he needs to keep them together. You need to believe in them, because I still believe in him. And he is preaching that message, right? To your point about, like, they're giving up big plays. And this goes to what Tyler Borgman said. So he put it in a comment to the link that I posted on the website, where basically the idea is Notre Dame's giving up big plays and they're not sending pressure. They're giving up big plays playing safe. They're picking up, like, they blitzed 6 times against Purdue.
Yeah.
6 times. Like, whatever it was. And you know, it's like the thing with the, you know, double safety blitz that Al Golden called against Ohio State. It's like, yeah, it was a bad play in that game, but it was like, no, we're doing this. This is what we're going to do. And this is what we're going to be. So, and every player will gravitate to that. Oh, we're not going to be scared. We're still coming. Yeah. And like, my big question for Marcus Freeman is, like, there's so much conversation about, you know, kind of everything else with the defense. And it's like, I want to know, what is your plan for this pass rush? You cannot continue to say we're sending 4 every time. It's just not happening. So, like, you can't just tell me, oh, their technique isn't good enough. That wasn't the deal the last 2 years. No one was talking about that, right? Yeah. You got it. This is who you are. You can't say we are going to send pressure. We're a pressure defense and blitz 6 times against Purdue. You can't. What is your identity? This is what you need to be. You need to live and die by it. People say live by the sword, die by the sword. That sword took them all the way to the national title game.
Yeah. And it's the same position coaches who are there.
Right.
Everybody else is the same. And so those guys who, I mean, anyone who watched Notre Dame's defense the last couple of years would say, like, man, this is just like a fundamentally sound. It's a sound defense. Yes, they pressure and they do it, but everything it was. I mean, BVG loved to pressure, but it couldn't get less sound. Like, honestly, because that was when I first started work for Mike, and I had to do some I was doing some film breakdowns, and it was like, what are they running here? It was just like they were getting exposed because of how unsound some of the calls were. Like it was like reckless, right? And there's a difference between being like, hey, we got all these things covered. And sometimes too, like, I mean, Al Golden never called a perfect game. He never called a perfect game.
Right.
Sometimes the call was wrong. And sometimes, but the players would maybe bail him out, or maybe they would make a check, or they'd be like, hey, we got that wrong. But they're like, man, he's gotten so much right. I just believe in you. It's kind of like how I bet last year, Mike Denbrock, like a huge turning point for the offense was the Louisville game. And when it was a tie game, and me and you were both at the game, and they schemed up 2 shots, right? They schemed up the one, fake bubble to or fake screen, to Jaden Harrison that they hit for like a big play, which was like a perfect call right at the right time. They couldn't run the ball. They couldn't really do much in that game. And they needed to find a way, and they couldn't really protect, for a long time because they were blitzing the crap out of them. And it was like, they needed to get like a shot play and just be able to win there. And they got it. So that got them out of there. And then they ran the screen call, and it was picture perfect. And it was like they set that up the whole game. Riley Leonard talked about it after in practice, and it was like, we knew that as soon as he's like, he made the call, he radioed into me, and I was like, it's a touchdown. Like, there is no greater feeling as a player than when the coach does that, and like, this, we got a winner.
Yeah.
Like, they're not going to stop this, whether you're on defense or offense, whatever, right? Whatever the call is, it's like, we're getting home on the pass rush here, or we're gonna make this play. We're gonna score a touchdown. We're getting a first down here, right? As long as we execute, we're doing it. And that was the thing that probably, like, honestly, after that happened, that essentially won them the game. That right there.
Yeah.
And then obviously from there, he built up more trust over time. And it's not to say like, Denbrock didn't have the respect or the trust of people after, but after that happens, it's like everybody's bought in. It just becomes automatic. So for Chris Ash, or for anybody really, if you're calling a defense, all it really could be is like just one game. It could even be just like the one call at the right time.
Yeah.
That honestly makes you just be like, I'm a believer. I'm a believer in this. And it sometimes too, which is why it helps, like the thing with like, Marcus Freeman, like it didn't go good for him, but he had these great relationship with the players. And then when it did turn, people were like, of course, like I wanted to believe in him, and now I believe in him. Right.
Yeah.
But with Chris Ash, he doesn't have that relationship with the players, and they're like, can we just get to the next guy? Or I'm not saying 100% they're thinking that, but I would find it hard to believe that the players aren't thinking like, man, we were so good and now we stink. Like, what's the deal? Like, can't we go back to what we did before or whatever? Like that, there's no way that isn't going through the minds of so many of the players who, especially from last year's defense. So, but all it takes is one thing where like, okay, well, we have this plan for Taylon Green in this game. And I promise you, if we do it while we're supposed to, we are going to contain him. He's going to throw us the football. We're going to do this. We're going to get stops, and we're going to win the game. And then that could go a long way in convincing people. But it's easy to say that, and it's like, well, you got to prove it and you got to go out and do it. And right now it's like, he's 0 for 3.
Yeah. Trader Z said, what type of defense did Freeman run? Was it full pressure? Why would Freeman agree to such a passive pressure? So Freeman, when he came in, it was the dollar defense that Cincinnati was running. And at the beginning, I mean, he said this too. Like, I was running dollar, and we didn't have the personnel. Or this is how he said it. We didn't have Notre Dame didn't have the personnel, and so therefore he's like. And Marcus Freeman has always been like self-aware to the point where he's very quick to say, "Hey, it's not working. I'm getting out of this." Right, and that's what he did. He got out of it. He started running more of the stuff that Notre Dame had kind of been doing. He still kept a lot of the his sim pressures were really good. Marcus Freeman did some very good stuff with like sims and sending players from different spots and stemming up front and running stunts and that sort of thing. He was very good at that stuff. And why would he agree to this? The thing is I don't know that he has agreed to it, because the game plan, because they have started games with pressures and then they've abandoned them essentially.
Yeah.
Kind of every time. And I think there is a hesitancy as the game goes on. I don't know if he's nervous or he doesn't believe in it or what it is. You just kind of go back to like, all right, let's play a little bit safer here. Let's just get home with 4. Let's just get home with 4. We can cover in the back. We'll cover in the back. And it's just like the players, because the other part too is the players, they go into a game feeling like, hey, we're coming. We're coming. And then you get away from it. They start to feel like, hey, we didn't work on this. Like, this isn't what we are. And this is not what you said. And it's like you said, the trust, like they have to believe in it. And if they don't believe in it, it's hard for them to fully buy into everything. And it's like what we said, like that you kill it in camp because you can run whatever in camp.
Yeah.
There's no consequence that you just run whatever. They're not game planning against you. And the defense is killing them in camp. And then you get in games with game plans and adjustments, and you got to make a call in a moment that has real consequences. And all of a sudden it goes different. And I think that's what it is.
Yeah. Well, and then I like just a quick story here too, because when I was a defensive coordinator at a high school, and it was my first year as a defensive coordinator. We're in the playoffs. We're playing a team, and it's the first time we were playing a wing T team. And anyone knows too, like if high school football, you're going to get like a mix of whatever, right? You're going to get like, hurry up, no huddle spread one week. And then you can get, wing T,
right.
wishbone, whatever, like the next week. It's all dependent on whatever school you're going to play. Right. And it just so happened, it's like, okay, well, we're playing a wing T team, and we just like couldn't. I thought we had better players, but we didn't matter. We couldn't. They were so good at executing it, and we had no answers, and they were running it down our throats. And I was like, I don't even know. And then I literally just was like, okay, well, let's just send double A gap pressure here on like first down and see what happens. And then we just blew it up in the backfield. And then I was like, well, guess what? We're going to run it again. And we ran it again. And we made another tackle for loss in the backfield. And we probably called double A gap pressure no matter what the down was. That was like in the second quarter that we did that, or in the third quarter, or, after halftime. That's was like one of the things that we decided to do. And they didn't get we didn't run it every down, but we ran it a lot. They didn't get a first down on us the rest of the game because they couldn't adjust to what that was and whatever. And sometimes you just have to throw whatever against the wall and just try to and hey, sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. But I also think when you're doing it, it's like, if things aren't working, you go back to who you are and what you are as a coach. And my mentality was always like, well, we're going to come after you, because if we're going to go out, you beat us. And I'm not going to go out being like, hey, we watched you execute, everything while we just were like couldn't get it. We couldn't beat a block. We couldn't do this. It's like, no, we're going to force you to do this. We're going to dictate, like we kind of talked about, right? And that is kind of it's just missing now, right? Because that is missing. And in that sense too, it's like, it doesn't even matter if like you can go through an interview with somebody and they can have like, man, this guy's concepts. I'm impressed with this guy and this and that. And you hear so many good things about how this guy can break down this and he can break down that. Well, it doesn't really matter if that guy, first of all, if he can't teach that concepts and get everybody to buy into those concepts at your program, that doesn't happen. Also, if you don't have the right personnel for it, and you need to coach to the strengths of your current roster, and all these things need to be taken into account, where it's like someone can look the best on paper and someone could have the best interview, but they might not be the right fit. And I just really thought that Chris Ash was, I mean, he said all the right things. And then even as we were hearing whispers of like, people are a little bit concerned that it's, I just thought, is this guy not going to, he says he's going to coach to the strength of the personnel. Why would I not believe him? Like, I feel like it would be stupid not to do that. And it's just, that's kind of how it is. And also too, they probably misevaluated some personnel and of like what they were getting get out of guys too. Like that's probably some of it.
What do you make of like Bryce Young and Jordan Botelho and Boubacar from a pass rush standpoint? I'm not gonna say Burnham because he hasn't really been.
Burnham has barely played.
Yeah.
So, and I don't know if I'm not sure. Like they said, he's like, maybe he's not all the way healthy or whatever, but like he's kind of like the odd man out in terms of rotation there. I actually think Bryce Young was like really good in the Texas A&M game at pass rush. Like in the second half of that game, he really kind of like turned a corner in my opinion. And it was just that one, he had the one, I mean, they're running a trap and he thinks they're going to pass and he got caught and wasn't a good play for him. And that looked bad, but just pass rush wise, I thought he looked good in that game. And obviously I really liked sack in this game. They ran a pressure, but he won so clean. It's like if they would have rushed for, he would have won clean. Right. So I think he's actually been pretty positive. And if you look at his like kind of like his raw like win rate numbers on PFF, they're like really good. Like he's by far the best on the team. I actually think Boubacar, first of all, in the Miami game, he was really good. Like the ball was getting out so quick that it didn't matter. But there's a lot of plays where it's like maybe it doesn't count as a win because the ball is out quick, but he has like run a move, and if that ball's out more, he's getting pressure or a sack here. There's a lot of that. So I think film wise, he has looked good to me. Like he has looked good. And I think the A&M game was a little bit different because I think they were very conscious about keeping him in the pocket and he didn't really let loose. And that's been a thing with him. And I think that's with a little bit with Botelho too, where they are like a little bit kind of, for lack of a better, actually, I'm not going to use that term, but like they were like they kept the leash on them. Like they didn't let them kind of like get out like you wanted them to in that game. And I thought Botelho, like in this game, like first of all, I thought Botelho looked good on third down in the first game. Like he only rushed 9 times, did a good job there. And then in this past game, I thought he was really good at like squeezing the pocket and bull rush stuff. And overall he was fine. He just hasn't won clean yet, like around the edge yet. But I think he also basically is still coming off like the injury and all that kind of stuff too. So I don't even know. Like he didn't have like a real camp or anything like that. So I don't know if it's just a matter of time for that. But I actually think those guys are like, I'm seeing positive signs where those guys are, it's coming for them. And then I would say too, like, I think it's coming for Donovan Heinisch too. Like, I think Donovan Heinisch has been good. The last 2 games, the first game was a nightmare, obviously, for him, but he was good the last 2 games. I thought Elijah Hughes looked good as a pass rusher in this game. Obviously, Purdue stinks, right? But I still saw some good things from him. Rubio was the best he's looked as a pass rusher ever in this game. And he's not going to be a guy who ever wins with like lateral quickness or like just incredible like quick hands or anything like that. But he is like plays heavy with his hands, and them running those TT stunts where he's doing it, like that is something that they have something there. And they need to continue to do that because he is going to be a guy who caves in that and causes disruption. Like he set up that play, the sack for Heinisch,
yeah.
And then on the play that, I don't know if we want to transition to that, but like the touchdown that they gave up at the end of the first half, like that was a really good rush from him. Like,
yeah, that's unfortunate because he had gotten through. He had clearly won, and it just. I mean, again, if Notre Dame was in zone, that ball's he's not going to throw that ball. Like it's got to go somewhere else, and it's probably going to.
Or if he throws it up in zone like that, it's getting picked, right?
Right, exactly. Probably, yeah. I mean, that's the good part of that too. I mean, you guys talked about yesterday about how that was kind of the wrong coverage to play in that specific situation, knowing that they have to throw to the end zone, it's just kind of that's one of those things where it's like a feel, you got to have a better feel for the moment. And frankly, like that's one where Marcus Freeman should probably be like, hey, no.
Yeah.
We don't need to be playing man here. Like, no. Let's play zone, cover 2 or something, cover 3, cover 4, whatever it might be. Keep it in front of us because they're already in field goal range, right? So if you're not bringing pressure, then play zone. If you want to rush 4, then play zone and keep everything in front so that they don't throw over our heads, which is what they did. And again, it's just
one other thing I just want to add to the pass rush too, but this is another thing when you think about, and this has a huge impact on pass rush. Notre Dame kills so many teams the last few years. When you're up 2-3 scores, it changes how the offense calls the game.
Yeah.
And you get to, pin your ears back and go. They haven't had that. Like this whole time, they haven't had that at any point.
Well, when did they have it? In the second half when things looked a lot better.
In the second half, that's it.
Yeah.
That's when they look the best.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, right? Like, and they had stopped the run enough that it was like, why are they even bothered running at this point?
Yeah.
Right. Like, it was like, that's the thing that if you get to that point, it's like, it's hard to get a rush on a play action when they're like just killing you. Like, you don't know what's going to happen. And it's like, they're throwing it over the top. They're doing this, they're doing that. It's like, you're never going to get a good like feel for the rush in those situations. And I think it's kind of like if what I would explain to just people who don't, haven't played like defensive line, or like, I would say if you play basketball and you're playing one-on-one with someone, right? Or you're in a game and that guy's checking you. Well, throughout the course of the game, and you've never played that person before, but throughout the course of the game, you're going to get a feel for like, well, this guy's doing this, so I can counter this. I can do this and whatever. And you get that, and it changes how you think. And that's why you see some guys like go for like, man, this guy had, 4 in the first half, and he went off in the second half for 25 or whatever. It's like, sometimes it's as simple as like, they were guarding me this way.
Yeah.
And this is like, now I know how to get this guy. I've solved this puzzle. And it's like, it's hard to solve the puzzle if you don't get enough chances to actually, figure it out. Right. So I think that's kind of like a bit of an underrated part of that thing, especially when you think about rushing 4, because you can't rush 4 and get after it. It's like, if you have the lead and you can just go and just be like, well, guess what? We're coming. And I know you're going to be, it changes everything.
Yeah. E. Olson says, why doesn't Notre Dame's defensive end simply copy Myles Garrett's alien Euro step pass rushing move? That's something they could do. They could incorporate Myles Garrett's awesomeness. Just be like Myles Garrett. How complicated can it be, Jamie? Sometimes we make this game too complicated. Just be like Myles Garrett.
Myles Garrett, Abdul Carter, why not? Just pick one of those guys.
Or you could be like Will House if you're into the pickleball thing, who's a top 10 pickleball pro. And he's, of course, a member of H2 Pickleball, if you're interested in that. That's, of course, founded by alum Todd Hill. He's teaming with fellow alums Jack Gibbs and the aforementioned Will House to bring Notre Dame fans to the Notre Dame Pickleball Crew League. Besides football, what better way to connect and engage fans than through pickleball? Membership is free. Members will have access to special pickleball events and discounts. They did have a tournament. I'm still efforting to find out how things went and the matchup between Reggie Brooks and Steve Berline, and Ian Book and Josh Lugg faced the aforementioned 2 players. Still trying to find out how that went, but there will be some more events. And of course, the portion of those proceeds will go to the Rockne Athletics Fund to support Notre Dame student athletes. If you are interested, contact Todd at h2pickleball.com or 574-339-5195 to join the league. And be sure to visit the H2 Pickleball facility in Mishawaka when you are in town. H2 Pickleball is located at 55801 Evergreen Plaza Drive in Mishawaka, Indiana. There's a lot of chatter-ish going on regarding Jaden Greathouse and, to some extent, Will Pauling in terms of the slots. Is this a concern of yours? Does this bother you? I'm kind of the opinion that right now Notre Dame is finding a lot of success throwing outside, which they haven't done in a while, and so that's kind of, when I say a while, I mean the last few years. They were a heavy slot team when Sam Hartman was around. They were a heavy slot team when Riley Leonard was around. And now they're throwing to a field a lot more because A, CJ Carr is that kind of quarterback. And B, sometimes, they only threw the ball 12 times with CJ Carr in the last game. And, Jordan Faison is open. Malachi Fields is open. You can only throw to one of them. And when you're 10 of 12, it's not like you're making the wrong decision, right? On one of those, he tried to hit one of the incompletions. He tried to hit Jaden Greathouse. He just threw the ball too high. But do you feel like their time? I just feel like their time is coming. They just got to be patient with it. They're doing a good job blocking. Jaden Greathouse sprung Jeremiah Love on a long touchdown run. Are you any concern for you as far as the slots?
I mean, I understand why those guys would be super frustrated.
100%.
So,
I'm talking from the fan point of view.
I would not worry about those guys and it's those guys are good. No, it's not. I firmly believe it's a part of it is gameplay and how things have gone. Also them being hey, our backs are pretty awesome and we need to make a more concerted effort to get these guys the ball and hand the ball off. And when you go into a game the Purdue game and you think he threw for 223 yards on 12 passes. They just could do whatever they wanted, basically. So it wasn't, Eli Reardon had 0 targets in the game after he had a big first couple of games, right? And so I think that's a little bit, how it went. And I would say that if you look at, say, so Ohio State, they've thrown the ball 80 times in 3. They played 3 games as well. Mm-hmm. They've thrown the ball 80 times in 3 games. They haven't played anybody good either, but and Notre Dame has thrown it 82 times, right? And if you look at kind of like the numbers for them, like the third, receiver, Brandon Innes, who's like their slot, he's got 5 catches, 37 yards. Like Jeremiah Smith, obviously he's got 20 catches.
Yeah.
And, Carnell Tate's got 12 catches. But there's like 3 tight ends who have like 4 each or whatever. Like it's just, it's kind of how it goes. And if you were Brandon Innes, you're probably like, man, can I get the ball more? Like all this kind of stuff. But it's like just how the games have probably gone in those things. And also they got a young quarterback too, who they're probably like feel more comfortable, like just getting the ball out to the edges and doing that kind of stuff. Or like you feel more comfortable like with defined throws and being like, I'm going to throw this jump ball up to where I know it's one-on-one. And if I throw this back shoulder, like I can do this, rather than I'm going to throw this ball and I got to fit it into a tight window in zone. And it's not to say that Carr hasn't thrown some of those window throws. He has, but not much of it. And that's the kind of thing where as you see him grow, you're going to see more of that. And also too, like based on like how they're going to play, like I would think that some teams are going to eventually probably like try to do more to like take that over the top away from Fields.
Yeah.
And, they're going to combat that. And they're going to say, hey, we're not going to give you this free access to Faison. Because that's basically how Faison, other than the deep ball, everything was just like free access for him.
Yeah. Just like they're playing soft and he's runs an out or runs a curl. Yeah. And he's open. It's just take it if you want it.
Yeah. He, runs a curl at 8 yards, gets another 4 yards. Right? Like that kind of thing. Right. So I think it's going to happen. They're going to get the football more. I totally understand like the frustration that they would have in it. I don't think it's anything to worry about in terms of, if anyone's like, well, obviously Jaden Greathouse is like, that was an anomaly, those 2 games. I'm like, no, I think he's still really good. I still think, I think Pauling is good too. It's just how the games have gone.
Yeah. They've just, there are other aspects of the passing game that are thriving right now. And I understand that it's frustrating, like you said, frustrating for them, but that's not a team problem and it's not an offense problem. You know what I mean? Like, I think a lot of these conversations are because like no one really cares about like the touches that Will Pauling gets, right? And I think with Greathouse, it's like, well, I hope they throw it to him because he's going to transfer, right? And obviously, no one wants him to transfer. Like that's not it, but that's Notre Dame can't change what they're doing because they don't want someone to get into the portal, like, and I don't know if he is or he isn't. I have no reason to believe.
No, but it's just like everybody, that's always the automatic thought.
It's on their mind. Anyone. Yeah.
It's because you're like, yeah, you want that guy to be a featured guy because that like Fields is going to be there
right
next year. Right. And, there's just a lot there. You just want to have, and because that he can help the team win, right? And you could probably argue that in the first 2 games, if they kind of did a better job of like the first game, maybe not as much, because I think the first game. Now, this is when we're talking about hindsight. Miami's defensive line has destroyed every other offensive line way worse than they did Notre Dame's.
Yeah.
Like, Notre Dame probably had like 3 series where they were like, oh, CJ Carr has time here. And he's like able to drop back and scan the field and do this kind of stuff. That has been no other game for the other thing. Like against Florida, Messidor and Bain had like 10 pressures each in the game. So you're like, oh, okay, it makes sense why they're running screens all the time. Like they've been unblockable. So maybe not that, but I think if you could argue, like, when you're thinking about, I know they had a lot of success in the A&M game too, but you probably got to find more ways to just be like, Jaden Greathouse is a winning player. He can help us win the game. let's get him the ball more. Because I think even one thing I would say about him is, they try to run some of those. I mean, they ran all those screens with Faison, and he's good at them. He is good. He's good there. But Fields, I mean, he got hit on it, but whatever. Greathouse is sneaky good on like tunnel screens. He just finds space. He's just one of those guys.
And that the Notre Dame Miami performance is like pound for pound Notre Dame's best offensive performance of the season when it is all said and done. I mean, 314 total yards, 5.4 yards per play. Like that's because that's a really that defense, like they destroyed Florida. And look, I know that Florida was no great shakes, right? But they really dominated them, and that defense could be like very, very good. And like CJ Carr in his first game, like he comes back on them twice. It comes down. It was down 14, and he cuts it to 7, and then it's down 10, then he ties the game. That could be like a truly kind of low key great performance from him, and it's the first game he's ever played. So we're monitoring that situation. Like if Miami like shuts down Florida State, like it's like whoa, because that Florida State offense is pretty serious. Do you have what's your biggest concern about the offense right now?
I would just say that the biggest concern is, now they're going to go back on the road again, and it's like, okay, playing offensive line is different on the road.
Yeah.
Protection and stuff like that. So it's just like, see how these guys protect.
Yeah.
On the road in those situations when it's like the crowd is loud, you're going on a silent count, all that kind of stuff. But honestly, that's kind of about it. Because I really think I think the offensive line has shown the right kind of like progression that you'd like to see. And I think that you're still worried if you play like Quincy Rhodes, he's got 5 sacks this year. He's been pretty good for, Arkansas. I mean, there's a huge gap between Quincy Rhodes and like Ruben Bain. I just want to point this out too. Ruben Bain right now and Messidor, true pass sets, right? And true pass sets, they have like 50% win rate. That is insane. Like that is just like, that's not human, right? Like that is like Quincy Rhodes 25%, and that's good. So it's like there's a gap there, right? And it's like, so I think, but that's going to be a challenge. You want to see those guys block these guys. Knapp, do a good job here. Like, Wagner, do a good job with that. I want to see Lambert. Like, I think he had a really nice game. He's had some nice progression there. I want to see like, does he keep making these steps and all that? But like, I mean, Carr, as long as you just see him could just continue and he doesn't turn the ball, because I think it's hugely important. Because I think if even to have like 1 or 2 of the mistakes that he's had in some of the first couple games, given what Arkansas's offense is, that might cost you the game. So he's got to kind of play within himself and make sure to not make those mistakes. But outside of that, like, what's to not feel good about the offense for Notre Dame right now? Like, do you have anything that makes you think that like you are like legitimately concerned about? Like, I also just don't think too, like, Arkansas's D-line is fine. They're okay. Mm-hmm. They're okay. Okay. It's not like a regular SEC defensive line. It is on the lower end of the SEC. It's like an ACC defensive line. So they're not going to play too many. I don't think any really great defense. Like USC is probably the best defensive line they're going to play at the rest of the year.
Yeah, they're pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think given, because Raymond Horton said Anthony Knapp in here, and there's is a concern right at left tackle. There was miscommunication. Like, he wasn't simply beaten on that one with around the corner. Like, he was confused as to whether or not he needed to pick up the other player. And so he was late, getting out of his set and, trying to block that player around the corner. And if there's a miscommunication, that can happen. Right. So I don't, there's a difference to me between I'm concerned about you because you had a physical error. Like, there were so many physical errors against Miami, whereas we haven't really. I mean, we had some against Texas A&M, but not really. I think the fact that the line performed against A&M and against Purdue informs me a little bit that, like, Miami's just a sick defense, and like they got whipped by just a better group, and you're just not going to see that for the rest of the year. Maybe USC can do some stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
So
not quite at that level.
Yeah. So it's a concern, like you said. You're going on the road, and you want to be able to do that. The only concern that I have, and I don't really have reason to feel like this is going to happen, but it could, is just continue to, and I'll harp on this until maybe forever, but like continue to understand that, like, Price and Love are the real ticket here.
They're the priorities.
Yes. Yeah. Like that is as good as CJ looks. Those two guys, you are not going to have them together ever again. Yes. Like, they need to be driving the bus. And as good as CJ is, like, I don't need it to be 12 attempts, right? But, like, let him be the complement, like you said, to those running backs. You're never going to have these guys again after this year. Love's going to be gone. I don't know what Price is going to do, but he won't be with Love. I mean, these are two very, very good running backs. Run them as much as possible. And they have, right? Like 35 touches, 35 carries in the last game. That's what it's got to look like. Lean on it. And that also can help your defense. It just keeps them off the field. And it just kind of, it's very encouraging for a defense to look there, and you just got these running backs who are just pounding them over and over again, because it's a confidence builder. Eric Fasano says 22 attempts a game for Carr is perfect. I don't know if I need to put a number on it, but it's just
we don't need to put a number. Just based on
you know it when you see it, when it's getting to be.
Some games might have to be 30, right? It just depends. Okay, but I don't know. We'll get into Arkansas, on Thursday.
On Thursday, yeah.
But for anyone, because obviously there's still a lot of concerns. Everyone's going to be concerned about Notre Dame's defense, and they're going against, a very good offense, that, is going to would put up points on anybody. They're going to score on anybody. And normally you would think, okay, well, if this was, you can't even think of, like, what if it was they become this? It's like you can only think of, like, who they are now, right, and who they've been so far. Maybe they surprise us, but that's what you can only think, that what we've seen so far. But defensively for Arkansas, they're not very good. They are one of the worst in the country against the run. And, obviously they've played Ole Miss and Memphis, are two pretty good offenses, but they've also played, like, an FCS team and Arkansas State. So they're not, like, playing, great, great teams. And they're 107th in EPA per rush, 127th in rushing success rate. And if you go YPP and you take out the yards per play, and you take out the garbage time and FCS opponents, they're 100th and 101st in points per drive. So obviously Notre Dame's gave up a lot of points. They're 95th in points per drive right now, which is not good. But Arkansas, slightly worse.
Yeah.
So something to keep in mind.
Yeah, and Notre Dame has pedigree on defense that Arkansas doesn't. So there's reason to believe that can improve for Notre Dame more so.
Talent for talent, you would trade. They would trade with Notre Dame if they could.
Yeah, 100%. All right. We can end it there. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in today. If you like what you heard, hit the like button, hit subscribe, hit the notification bell. So whatever it is, we are going live. We'll be back on Thursday for the preview with Arkansas and more talk. Hopefully we get some news on some injured guys like Leonard Moore and Devontae Smith, because that's going to be a big deal. So we'll talk to you on Thursday about the game. Thank you, everyone, for your participation. Hit the like, hit subscribe, hit the notification bell. We'll talk to you on Thursday. Keep hitting and hustling.